Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here on the Saturday evening, and I welcome you all on behalf of Square Sequel Consulting. And the reason we started management through movies was to extend learning from beyond the classroom. And we, as facilitators and trainers, use movie clips in our sessions. So we thought, why not do the same thing beyond the class, beyond the conference room? So we meet every few weeks or once in a week to discuss the latest movie that is trending, and which is based on life events, or from where we can draw leadership lessons. So it is an initiative by Square Sequel Consulting, and we do not recommend or review any kind of movies in any way. And this is the initiative that we have taken to be a part of in our learning journey, to enhance our learning journey and to enhance our leadership lessons. So with that said, I would like to hand it over to Arvind. Over to you, Arvind ji. You are on mute.
Okay, so as you all can see, today is introduced by Afreen. We are going to go through this session of management through movies through Square Sequel Consulting Private Limited. And today's movie we are going to talk about is Mr. and Mrs. Mahi. And इसके निर्देशक थे Mr. Shashank Khaitan. And we also know him by the name of Shashank Sharma. And the cast, the main cast was Rajkumar Rao and Janvi Kapoor in and as Mr. and Mrs. Mahi. And this movie is based on the Indian sports drama, and you can watch this movie on Netflix. Right? And today's agenda as to what we are going to talk about today of this movie is that first of all, we are going to talk about the storyline of the movie as to what the story is. Then we are going to discuss the learnings from the movie Mr. and Mrs. Mahi. And then we're going to talk about any question and answers by the audience. And after that, let me tell you, this is, and as a disclaimer, we are only going to discuss about the learnings from the movie. We are no way promoting any movie, or we don't recommend whether you should watch this movie or not. Right? And now let's talk about the brief introduction of the movie. This is a story of a boy or a man who is an aspiring cricketer. वो cricketer बनना चाहता था, लेकिन because of certain wrongdoings or some bad decisions or incorrect chances, or maybe at many times because of some, he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and maybe he was at the right place at the wrong time, and because of these reasons, he could not make it big. And since he was not able to make it big, his father says, Ki, you should get married now and get settled into a normal life. So he gets married to a girl who was a doctor. And on the very night, they got a surprise of their life. The boy gets a surprise of his life when he finds out that the doctor girl whom he has married is actually a big cricket fan, as big as he himself was. And she was not only a cricket fan, but also prodigious batter. She was a fantastic batswoman as well. Now, when this gentleman comes to know about his wife, that he's a fantastic batter as well as a cricket fan, he decides to coach his wife so that she could reach the big stage. And somewhere in his mind, the thing was that since he is not able to make it big, at least he would help his wife to go to the big stage. And then the ups and downs and the politics and other things start to follow. And there are psychological upheavals of the married life, and all these things constitute this movie. So this is what the movie is all about. And let's have a look at the trailer of this movie. And the trailer of the movie is like this. Let me share the sound. And here it comes. Wow. So this was Mr. and Mrs. Mahi for all of you. And after the basic introduction of the movie, let's share the learnings from the proceedings of this movie. Right? So the first learning which comes to your mind is that we should all be an independent contributor, not a dependent contributor. To understand this learning, let's understand what is a dependent contributor and what is an independent contributor. So you must have worked in lots of offices, lots of places. So you must have seen this particular scenario when the boss is in the office. Everyone is working very ardently. And with full focus and attention, everyone is looking to their work, to the computers, and everyone is taking out the phone and talking. But the moment the boss leaves the office, the scenario is different. What do people do? Are boss gaya kya? Okay, let's have some chai and samosa. Let's relax. So this is called dependent contribution. We, as an employee, either we are an entrepreneur or we are an employed person, we all contribute towards a job. And this kind of contribution is called dependent. Why this is called dependent contribution? This is called dependent contribution because this is dependent on a present or an absence of an individual or presence of an absence of a circumstance or situation. And then what is independent contribution? Independent contribution means कि you are a person who is not affected by presence of a situation or a circumstance or an individual. You are giving your 120% at every moment. You know where you have to go. You know where your target is and you what your route plan is. You know how to go about that route plan. Such a person is called independent contributor. And you know where he is going and what his goal is. In this movie, Mr. Mahi, whose name is Mayank Agarwal, the moment when he was playing in one of the club matches, so he was batting very well. And the moment he sees that the selectors are not there, they have gone. So he carelessly takes a single and goes on the non-striker end. Why? Because selectors are not there. Who's going to watch him bat? And to his misfortune, the moment he takes the single, selectors reach the point and come back at the same time. And when at this particular time, when selectors were sitting, the person who was doing the batting, he hits two boundaries and he gets the opportunity to be selected in the state team. And Mr. Mahi or Mr. Mayank Agarwal loses that opportunity. And why did he lose it? Because he was working as an dependent contributor. So if he would have just worked for the victory of the team, not to get selected, he automatically would have been selected. So such a behavior is called dependent contribution. We shall exhibit independent contribution style to demonstrate growth mindset. And just because Mr. Mahi was demonstrating a dependent contribution, he was not being selected. So my dear friends, be an independent contributor. कोई भी हो, कहीं भी हो, चाहे वो बैठा हो, चाहे ना बैठा हो, आप जो अपना काम कर रहे हैं, you should do it to the best possible potential of yours. और इसी को हम लोग कहते हैं सिंगल लाइन में we should be loyal to the absent. If someone is not there, we should be loyal to that person, even if that person is not there. And this is called independent contribution. So this is learning number one. Let's go to learning number two. And learning number two says a person who is a coach, who is working for the development of someone else, he should have a giver state of mind, not a taker state of mind. Now let's understand what is a giver state of mind and taker state of mind. There, as well as research, worldwide, 19% of us are takers and 25% of us are givers. And rest 56% are matchers. So let's understand what takers is. Takers are those people who only and only think about what they are going to get. For instance, if someone is working in an organization, his question will be, what this organization has done for me. Whereas what the giver will say, what have I done for this organization? So most of the people who are in this world, they are called takers, and 19% of them are takers. Takers always talk about things like what this country has done for me. But givers say what I have done for this country. And they are called matchers. Who are the matchers? Matchers are the people who try to bargain. If you do this for me, then I will do this for you. If you are going to give this to me, then I'll want to give this to you. Their taking and giving is a commercial transaction. So such people are called matchers. So 56% of people are matchers. So as it is mentioned there, takers are the people who are governed by self-serving bias. They always say, oh, I have done this. I have done this. Everything is good has happened, then I have done this. And in this movie also, when one of the media person appreciate Mrs. Mahi for hitting six number three, her husband, who was Mr. Mahi, says, "मैंने सिखाया है. I have trained her." So everyone he was trying to protect his self-esteem, and he was demonstrated a behavior of a taker. And now what happens? The worst thing happens when a taker comes in a disguise of a giver. A person who is actually a taker, but he comes in a life in the disguise of a giver. And when people come in a disguise of a giver and they are actually taker, that is the time when heart breaks. And this is also that happens in this movie. Initially, if you must have seen this trailer, the lady asks, Mrs. Mahi asks Mr. Mahi, तुम मुझे आगे क्यों बढ़ाना चाहते हो? Why do you want to take this chance? So Mr. Mahi कहते हैं, क्योंकि मैं तुम्हें आगे बढ़ना देखना चाहता हूँ. अब मेरी लाइफ में तुम्हारे अलावा है ही कौन? So this was a straight away giver's statement. And when success happens and everyone acknowledges Mrs. Mahi, Mr. Mahi says, मुझे तो कोई पूछता ही नहीं है. Everyone is asking you. You go and play for your glory. I'm nothing. So he was also looking for his fame. So he was also looking for his share of success. So actually he was a taker who came in a disguise of a giver. And that was the time when the difference starts to happen. So my dear friends, if you are coaching someone, if you are helping someone to grow, if you are working towards betterment of someone or welfare of someone, you should always be a giver. Don't worry about being taker. You will get your due credit, right? If you are a coach, operate from the giver state of mind. Number 3, interdependence is the best relationship. As per Dr. Stephen Covey, there are 3 different kinds of relationships. Relationship number 1 is dependent relationship. Relationship number 2 is independent, and relation number 3 is interdependent. Let's understand the 3 relationships. Dependent relationship is when we are a child. For our food, for our education, for money, for growing up, we are dependent on someone. That is called dependent relationship. A relationship of a mother and a son, mother and a daughter, father and a daughter, right? Then gradually, when we become mature, we get to our jobs, when we get financially settled up, when we get married, we become financially, psychologically, and physically independent. And here is where the clause lies. Most of the people think that being independent is the best kind of relationship, and people fight for it. But Dr. Stephen Covey says, being interdependent is a better relationship. Interdependent means when 2 independent people come together and work towards each other's welfare. That is what interdependent is. That means people who are good here are not dependent on each other. They work together, collaborate, celebrate success and difference. When 2 different people are coming, obviously they are going to be different. So when people celebrate the difference, when people acknowledge their difference, that is when the interdependence happens. And one of the best example of interdependence is orchestra. If you see an orchestra, there are so many musical instruments which have been played. A guitar has been played, a tabla has been played, a flute has been played, a violin has been played. So many instruments are played. But have you ever thought that if a violin master would have been thinking कि मेरा चांस अभी तक आया नहीं है और सारी लाइमलाइट तो ये तबले वाला लेके जा रहा है? No, the violin player never thinks like that. He waits for his turn. Let the tabla wala get his job done. Then when my turn will come, then I'll play the violin. Each person contributes when his turn comes. This is called interdependence. When we work together, we acknowledge and celebrate the difference and contribute to our part to the best possible manner. So in this movie, it has been told interdependence is the best relationship. When Mr. and Mrs. Mahi come together and they form the relationship of husband and wife, they display interdependence. They are independent. One is a doctor and one is running his own sports shop. No one is depending on each other financially or for career wise, but they like the success. They like each other's success. They were happy. The one was happy in the success of others. Mr. Mahi was happy in success of Mrs. Mahi. Mrs. Mahi was happy in success of Mr. Mahi, and they celebrated the difference. And that was the relationship of interdependence. So whether it is boss or it is husband wife or it is the relation of a colleague, interdependence is the best relationship. And transparency and truth are the pillars of interdependence relationship. इनकी शादी कैसे हुई थी? When they were when the conversation was on as to what Mrs. Mahi is doing, to everyone told that she is a doctor, and Mr. Mahi, who was a field cricketer, his father introduced him as a big time businessman, whereas he was not. So he went to Mrs. Mahi and told her entire truth that I am no more a successful businessman. I'm a field cricketer who has been forced to become a businessman. And this was the truthfulness which laid the foundation of interdependent relationship between the two of them. So interdependence is the best relationship, and transparency and truth are the most important pillar of it. This was well exhibited in this movie. Another thing which was very easily brought up in this movie, but that was by the dialogue when Mahi or Mr. Mahi Agrawal or Mahendra Agrawal said that he was the owner of legendary sports at Jaipur, and he gave a concept कि बाकी लोग बेचकर बनाते हैं, हम बनाकर बेचते हैं, which means all those things which they were manufacturing, which they were selling from their shop, they were also manufacturing. And this is called backward integration in business. So that is why the legendary sports was one of the most premium sports shop in Jaipur. And despite so much of competition, they were earning a good profit. So backward integration becomes a very important part of business. Whenever you get some time, you should always go for backward integration. This will enhance your profitability and productivity. So this is what he says कि बाकी लोग बेच के बनाते हैं, हम लोग बना के बेचते हैं, right? And the next learning which is coming is self conviction is the most important thing. You might, if especially if you are in the business of sales, you might be asked to sell something, but if you are not convinced about the product, if you cannot sell that product or that concept to yourself, perhaps you'll not be able to sell it to anyone else. That's why self-conviction is very important. And how this was shown in this movie, there was a small child who comes to buy a cricket bat in Mr. Mahi's shop. And he says, कि माही भैया कोई बढ़िया सा क्रिकेट बैट दिखा दीजिए. तो माही says, छक्के बैट्समैन मारता है, बैट नहीं. It's the batter who hits the six, not the bat. So resources and tools are important. However, the mindset and the conviction of an individual is very important. You might wear the best suit, but the real smartness comes from within. You might wear the best of the attire, but the personality of the person actually overpowers whatever attire someone is wearing. And what is personality? Personality is your inner self. How much conviction you have got about yourself. Are you are you having the real kind of trust within yourself? That's what self-conviction is. So, छक्के बैट्समैन नहीं मारता, सॉरी छक्के बैट नहीं मारता, छक्के तो बैट्समैन मारता है. और अगर खराब बैट्समैन के पास अच्छे से अच्छा बैट दे दो, he will not be able to hit the six. लेकिन तेंदुलकर को अगर कपड़े धोने वाले पिटोरा भी दे दो, तो perhaps he'll be able to hit a six from that. So it is the batsman who hits the sixes, not the bat, not the bat. So conviction बहुत important है, emotional intelligence बहुत important है, और अपना mindset बहुत important. And the next learning which is coming from the movie is be value driven, not opportunity driven. In this movie, it has been shown Mahi or Mahi Agrawal, Mayank Agrawal, who was a very opportunistic kind of person. And it has been shown in one of the incidents when his coach says that you are not a very good batsman, you can become a good coach because तुम्हारा दिमाग तुम्हारा बल्ले से ज्यादा तेज चलता है. Your mind works faster than your bat. So Mr. Mahi says, sir, let me tell you, no one remembers the coach. No one wants to listen to the coach. Everyone is looking at the player. And next day, when he was going on one of the streets, he saw that there was a procession which was going on. And the procession was his coach, whom he has refused the job. He was being honored. And why he was being honored? Because one of his disciples was selected in Indian team. And the moment he saw that, he rushed back to his coach and said, Coach Saab, make me an assistant coach. And by this time, lot of water has flown beneath the river, beneath the bridge. And the coach says, कल जब मैंने तुम्हें ऑफर दिया था तब मेरे पास ये जगह खाली थी, लेकिन आज जब मैंने तुम्हें ऑफर दिया है तो मेरे पास 100 लोगों की लिस्ट ऑलरेडी है जो मेरे अंडर में कोच बनना चाहते हैं, बिकॉज आई एम सक्सेसफुल. तो कल जब मौका था तो तुमने नहीं पकड़ा. तो ही वॉज अपॉर्चुनिटी ड्रिवन. जब उसने देखा कि अब ये सक्सेसफुल बन गए, चलो अब पकड़ लेते हैं, लेट्स कैच हिम नाउ. Whereas he was offering him a job, he didn't go. So Mahi was more influenced by the desperation to succeed. And when the coach became successful, he was begging for the similar position for him. So he was not value driven, he was opportunity driven. And जब आप वैल्यू ड्रिवन होते हैं तो आप लंबी दूरी तय करते हैं, और जब आप अपॉर्चुनिटी ड्रिवन होते हैं तब आप लंबी दूरी तय नहीं कर पाते, आप सिर्फ अपॉर्चुनिटीज के पीछे भागते रह जाते हैं. And when you are value driven, you stick to your values. And when you stick to your values, lots and lots of opportunity comes. And there was a dialogue. And the dialogue was that कि फैसला लेना अलग बात होती है, फासला तय करना अलग बात होती है. फैसले से फासले तय नहीं होते. Taking decision and traveling the distance are two different things. अगर फैसले लेने हैं खाली तो अपॉर्चुनिटी ड्रिवन हो सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर फासले तय करने हैं तो आपको वैल्यू ड्रिवन होना पड़ेगा. यू विल हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई व्हाट योर वैल्यूज आर. एंड व्हेन मिस्टर माही आइडेंटिफाई हिज वैल्यू, व्हेन ही आइडेंटिफाई द पर्सन whom he can coach, then he created a diamond. He created a fantastic player in form of Mrs. Mahi, and he was an extremely successful coach. तो फैसले के साथ फासला भी तय किया when he was value driven. So these are a few of the learnings which I was able to understand and I thought I should share with you. So let's summarize this. So learning number 1, be an independent contributor, not a dependent contributor. Second, coach has to operate from giver state of mind, not from the taker state of mindset. There's also another state of mindset which is matcher, which is only transactional. Then interdependence is the best kind of relationship. People think that independence is the best kind of relationship. Let me correct you. Interdependence is the best kind of relationship. Backward integration in business, which was being shown in this movie when he said कि बाकी लोग बेच के बनाते हैं, मैं बनाकर बेचता हूँ. We are not only into selling, but we are also into manufacturing. Self-conviction is the most important thing. When the dialogue was been given कि बच्चे, बैट्समैन छक्का मारता है, बैट नहीं मारा करते. इट इज द बैटर हु हिट्स द सिक्सेस, नॉट द बैट. सो सेल्फ कन्विक्शन इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, बी वैल्यू ड्रिवन, नॉट अपॉर्चुनिटी ड्रिवन. बिकॉज फैसले लेना और फासला तय करना दो अलग अलग चीजें हैं. अगर फासला तय करना है तो यू विल हैव टू स्टिक टू योर वैल्यूज. You don't have to run for the opportunities. So these were a few of those summaries which I can get from this movie and I've shared from all of you. So any questions, any answers? I'll press the pause button here. Any questions or answers? I'll love to answer them. Afreen, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, Prashantji, would you like to ask anything? Like to add?
I'm soaking it right now. When you showed the trailer and the example where the husband introduces the lady into the cricket, अभिमान पिक्चर के याद आया.
Which one?
अभिमान, अमिताभ बच्चन जया भादुरी वाला.
Yes, yes, yes.
Of course,
Now,
she was already skilled in singing.
the difference was that Amitabh Bachchan in that movie was already successful,
Yes.
and in this movie, Mr. Mahi was a failure.
Yeah. So question is that when you bring your protege along, regardless of the competency level, I had one, I'll not name the person. He brought his wife into the company, आईटी कंपनी में उसको एक ग्रेड ऊपर मिला और सैलरी ज्यादा
Hmm.
आके मुझे बोल रहा था मैन टू मैन बोला बॉस व्हेन यू ब्रॉट इट यू वर ऑल दैट गिवर आज का यूज वर्ड करो सब भला सोच के लाया था उसको प्रोफाइल तो आपने देखा ही नहीं उसका प्रोफाइल में आपसे ज्यादा एक्सपीरियंस है क्वालिफिकेशन है तो ये तो होना ही था आप क्या सोच के लाए थे एंड आफ्टर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम आई सॉ दैट लेडी नॉट वर्किंग सो आई वाज वंडरिंग हमारा दिमाग में जो है कितना भी करें समो ईगो हिट्स अस
Absolutely right. So that's why I say कि interdependence is always a better relationship, because in interdependence we celebrate the difference. Whatever the difference, whether the person is better than me or not better than me, we celebrate. And because right now it is the transition phase of society, and most of the people are getting independence. And since this is a newfound independence, they are celebrating as if this is the best kind of relationship. Whereas the next level of relationship is waiting for them. The only thing is that they have to knock the door and enter into it.
दूसरा क्वेश्चन ये था she says she is a doctor not a cricketer and she changes her मैं पिक्चर तो देखा नहीं तो स्टोरी है in real life that happens the person has to really think hard कि एमबीबीएस में इतना क्या होता है सैक्रिफाइसेस है मेडिकल में मेडिकल इतने सैक्रिफाइस है डॉक्टर बनने के बाद में अगर फेलियर है then maybe it makes sense to explore something different but if you're a successful doctor just because you got a hobby you never got a chance to go into cricket वो थोड़ा it gives people a lot of
If this
different
question
ideas.
is answered in this movie in two forms. Form
हाँ,
number one, she never lied. But she was trying hard to carry her duties as a doctor, because it's shown that it was her father who forced her to be a doctor, whereas she always had cricket as the first choice. So that has been shown. And number of times, her boss, who is Dr. Kalekar, who is after her life, ki you are a bad doctor and you are going to kill a patient, who is going to be responsible. So she was also getting lots of bad time in her office. So
okay,
reason number
so
one,
that's
she
clear in the movie
be a
then.
doctor. Reason number two, she was an average doctor. And she was been highlighted by her father that she's a fantastic doctor. And reason number three, she was having a bad time back in the hospital. So these three things have been shown to perhaps make a conviction to people that despite being a doctor, she chose to be a cricketer.
Makes sense, makes sense.
So we should always
If I
be like and
Yes.
love
go
what
ahead,
we yes. It means that we have to do what we love to do and do what and love what we do. So this goes like that.
Absolutely
We should
right.
always put our head to what we are interested in. Yeah. And I love
yes,
the part,
Afrin, what you
love
said
the
nowadays.
part. Yes, Prashantji
Go
was
ahead, go ahead. I was just supporting a point. Go ahead.
yeah. So yes, I really love the part when you said loyal to the absent. When you are loyal to the absent means you are loyal to the present as well. This is really a wonderful point.
Loyal to
Thank
the absent makes you a independent contributor.
you. Right.
You are not governed by presence and absence of anyone. You are doing what you're supposed to do in whatever the situation is.
Yeah, it was really wonderful.
That was a very important point. In fact, I've seen our company Wipro saying integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's watching.
Absolutely. When you are not been noticed.
Yeah, very nice point there.
Thank you.
आपने एकदम नगेट्स निकाल के लाए सर मूवी से.
And I recently learned about integrity and then from a kid only. It was said like integrity is something you are doing the right thing when even when no one is watching you. You're doing
Absolutely.
the right thing. So
That's why they said कि जब कोई नहीं देख रहा है तो खुदा देख रहा है. When no one
yes,
is watching, God is watching. So that
yes,
is because people are God fearing, so that they're at least absent to the loyal they are loyal to the absent, and that absent person is God.
right, right.
एक्चुअली आपने अभी जो बोला ना, राइट फ्रॉम चाइल्डहुड वो देख रहा है, वो देख रहा है, सो पीपल क्रिएट गॉड फियरिंग. देयर इज अनदर थियरी कॉल्ड
Absolutely.
गॉड लविंग. In fact, this when you saw this, when I saw this trailer, and you said it gave me a flashback. Childhood, mechanical things are my hobby, cars, trains, and all that. And I was applying for mechanical engineering all the time. And when Ramaravati came, 83, my father asked me this one question: do you understand computers? Do you know what it is? It changed my life. I took up computer engineering, but I have kept studying it as a hobby today. I don't know, my life would have been different then. But I have no regrets because after doing computer engineering, IT में field में, I would say the productivity, the prosperity is high, my perspective, but the shelf life is low because it gets too obsolete very fast. You have to keep reinventing. Whereas in traditional engineering, the prosperity, if I use the word same way, prosperity may not be so high, but longevity is longer. That's what I realized this after putting 2 decades of. Now I'm trying to keep staying, see how I can be in a volunteer when I do. Can I go back to my hobbies, do some projects there, explore करते रहो.
Absolutely, definitely.
Hence,
So
ask the
thank,
question: was she a successful doctor to change? Because if it would have been, then it would have been a very difficult job for her to change her track.
obviously,
मूवी नहीं दिखाया वो बात
higher
अच्छी
the
बात है.
stakes, higher the stakes, more difficult it is to change or make transition.
Because this goes back to our thing that we learned, sunk cost fallacy का bias.
Yeah, it goes to
इतने
some
साल में 20 साल डॉक्टर बना, अभी मैं क्यों क्रिकेट खेलूं?
cost. Yes, absolutely right. And the moment we are interdependent, biases go away. Independence creates biases. Interdependent kills biases because interdependence is all about collaboration, and we cannot collaborate when the biases are there.
मिश्रा जी एक क्वेश्चन है.
जी.
कोविड टाइम पे जिमी सर had and in some similar stations there. Sometimes people have the knack of relating what you saw in the movie with this appreciation of the movie. Is that an art or is it observation? How do you do that?
About the movie,
Relating this takeaways to the movie.
takeaways to the movie.
हाँ.
Actually,
मूवी में आपने ये देखा. हाँ.
what happens when we are people like Jimmy or me? There's a movie called A Soldier is Never Off Duty. And same goes for us. A trainer is never off duty. We have got that lens. And the moment we see anything, we register that. What I do, I mention that in on my mobile. I've got a group on which I am there and only I am there. So I write and put a message about it. So anything which we see, we connect it to that thing. And for me, if you ask me, my top strength is connectedness. So I'm able to connect anything and everything which I get to the message it is giving to me. So that's more than art, it's a science and a process. So thank you so much, Prashant ji, for so all these questions. And over to you, Afreen, to call it up.
Yes.